Hello, everybody. This is Chapter 5, The Problem of an Empire. We'll be going from the year 1754 to 1776. Our essential question for this chapter is: how did Britain's victory over France in the Seven Years' War lead to new conflicts in North America? Remember, if you have to, you can pause this video so you can write down the essential question. So, leading up to this chapter, we have already talked about what the colonies are like in the 1700s. So far, we've seen that European powers have been fighting over control of North America, and specifically, we've been discussing Great Britain and France. We've talked about a few different wars, like King William's War, Queen Anne's War, King George's War, all of it over control over North America and its resources. So all of this is going to lead to, in 1754, what becomes known as the French and Indian War. You might see sometimes it discusses the 7 Years' War, because the term French and Indian War makes it sound like it's the French versus the Indians, when actually it's going to be French and Indian allies versus the British and Indian allies. So Great Britain will take over Canada, or parts of Canada, and different American Indian tribes will join the French or join the British, and they'll basically try to align themselves with whoever they think is going to win the war, and they'll even battle other traditional native enemies. So here you can see in this map, what's in purple is held by the British before the war. Then afterwards, the French lose the war, and because of that, the French are basically kicked out of all of North America, and now the Mississippi River becomes the boundary between Spanish territory and British territory. Now, exactly how the war is fought and the battles and everything is not necessarily important, but the results of this war is crucial, because after the war, uh, uh, Great Britain creates a new proclamation of 1763. This is going to basically say that the land west of the Appalachian Mountains, all the way to the Mississippi River, is going to be for Native Americans. And they're going to say um, uh, colonists are not allowed to cross over the Appalachian Mountains and settle there. So I'll go back to the map just so we can see. So here you can see in red, this is the proclamation line of 1763. So the colonists are supposed to stay on this side of the line. And the big reason is because if they cross over, then there's no guarantee that the Native American tribes who are there won't fight them. And so Britain doesn't want to spend a whole lot of money on sending soldiers out to the west to protect the colonists who are there. Regardless of this rationale, the colonists hated it, because they said, well, we just fought for this war, we fought for the British, and the French are gone now. Why aren't we taking advantage of this land we just won? Again, it feels like the colonists are not really cared about, or at least their motivations or what they want is not important. A key thing about the French Indian War, though, is that it's going to dramatically increase the British debt. It almost doubles to 133 million pounds. And to pay for that debt, England is going to tax specific things. These are called excise taxes. When a government says, okay, we're going to tax this one good, like there might be a gasoline tax or a cigarette tax. Those are taxes on specific goods. Now, remember, for a long time now, England has had the Navigation Act set up to make the colonists trade with England only. However, because of salutary neglect, the colonists don't really listen to it that much. Instead, they just kind of do their own thing. And so now that England is starting to tax goods for the colonists almost feel like, okay, we'll keep doing salutary neglect and we won't have to pay for these taxes. But England really needs to get this money, and so they are really intense about getting that money back. And to make sure that they get their money back, and to make sure that um, uh, that the colonists are not moving across the mountains, they send 7,000 soldiers to North America. With all these soldiers coming to North America, that's going to cost a lot more money. So England expects the colonists to pay for taxes to pay for those services. So to pay off this debt, we have a new prime minister, George Grenville, and he's going to come up with a couple ways to pay off this debt. The first is the Sugar Act of 1764. Now, it might seem kind of counterintuitive, but what it actually is going to do is actually going to lower the tax on molasses from 6 pence to 3 pence. So the reason why he does that is because then more people would be willing to buy British molasses instead of smuggling French molasses, which is against the navigation laws. So by making it cheaper taxes, more people would be willing to go for English goods and actually pay those taxes. So instead of getting 0 pence because people are smuggling, they're going to get 3 pence because people aren't smuggling. Now, people like this man, John Hancock, have made a lot of money smuggling over the years. And so what John Hancock is kind of upset about is that now he's going to lose a bunch of money off this. So him and other colonists begin to question why they didn't have any representation when this tax was created. Now, if you were suspected of breaking one of these smuggling laws, the British created something called a Vice Admiralty Court. These are courts run by judges appointed by the British, and they look at evidence to see, did you commit this crime? And so this is one thing that the American colonists really don't like, because they don't have control of these courts. They're not looking at each other to see if they committed a crime. It feels like these outsiders, the British, the Englishmen, are looking at them. And like John Adams says in his quote there, the Vice Admiralty courts diminished equality by degrading every American below the rank of an Englishman.